Welcome back to another episode of Lawyer Up and to the Right. I'm joined today by my co-host Cesar Cobo, and today we're going to be talking about citations. Now, citations have been around in the SEO, specifically the local SEO space, for a while, but we have seen a massive shift, especially with the advent and the mass adoption of platforms like ChatGPT that are using citations inside of their ranking algorithm, but slightly different. So before we get into how they shifted, Cesar, can we just talk about what is a citation historically and why it's important? And maybe an example of what a citation is.
Citation, to put it succinctly, is a directory where you create a profile and you have control over what goes into that profile. In most cases, you have the ability to link to your website, but in all circumstances, you're going to have the ability to control the NAP, the name, address, and phone number. And that, when we say a citation, is what we're talking about, is the name, address, and phone number mentioned somewhere on the web.
And historically, these have been a big part of local SEO ranking factors, because something like brownbook.com or Yelp.com, whatever these websites and directories, and they come in like kind of different shapes and sizes and classifications, I guess is the right way to put it. But historically, what they helped Google do is to triangulate a location of a business, right? So if you're located in downtown Miami and then you're on Yellow Pages, you're on Brown Book, you're on Yelp, all with a consistent name, address, phone number, aka NAP, then Google would use it kind of as a verification, like, okay, they are a local active business because they're also on these platforms. But it's my opinion, citations are just SEOs especially, but marketers can't have anything nice. We just destroy everything. Citations just got kind of spammed out. So there's platforms like on Fiverr, right, where you can just go on and buy 500 citations, right? Like, talk to me about kind of how do you define what is a good citation, Cesar, versus not worth it type citation?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is that there are just so many citation sources now. And like you say, a lot of times SEOs will come in and ruin things. It's really from the standpoint of that they come in and say that citations are the most important thing in the world. So they put all of this emphasis on you have to have hundreds of citations. Now, because of that, what ends up happening is a lot of these directories were created as spam, basically just link farms, where the directory is one that Google doesn't hardly ever crawl. None of their pages, if you were to look for them in Google, are indexed. So those are just low value directories that it doesn't make any difference whether or not you're listed on there. When you go to Fiverr and you pay $5 for 500 citations, that's what you're getting. You'll get a list of, hey, we put your profile on these 500 directories, but if you actually look for that page inside of Google, you'll never find it. So the approach that we've taken when it comes to citation building is twofold. Number one is we want citations, we want directories that Google actually trusts and recognizes, and that when you go to Google and you search for your practice area, you're going to be likely to see those citations on the first page of Google. Yeah, so something like the obvious ones, right? Like Yelp as an example, Avo if you're a lawyer, FindLaw. Those are, if you Google personal injury lawyer and whatever city you're in, the odds are is you're going to find those directories on page 1 of Google. So
here's Miami DUI attorneys, and I scroll down, get past the ads, the maps pack, and the first thing.
There you go. The very first result is a Justia, right? So that's the low hanging fruit, is you absolutely need to have a profile on Justia in this case.
And that's, sorry to cut you off, Cesar, too, but you see here the name, address, phone number, right, which clearly classifies this. Also the visit website, these have detailed profiles that we'll kind of get into more detail about filling these out, but to your point, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's two things, right? Like, this historically has always been for the benefit, looking at it from just the standpoint of SEO, has always been for the benefit of Google, and it had more of an impact on your Google business profile, ranking in the local pack, ranking in the top 3 in maps. Another way to look at this is if you really take the time to fully optimize that profile inside of Justia. You funnel some of your reviews over to Justia. Justia in and of itself is a search engine. So that is another way to, if we're looking at this beyond just SEO, if you're looking at, I just want to give myself the most opportunities possible to get someone to call me. Well, as you see, Justia is the very first result, and Jason Melton in this case is at the very top of that directory. And now the second part of this, or the other side to this, is LLMs. LLMs, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they all use these directories as credibility sources. When they do their retrieval, a lot of times you can reverse engineer the prompt that you give it. If you say, hey, I need a DUI lawyer in Miami, can you recommend however many? Can you recommend the best one? And it'll give you a list. And then if you were to then ask it, well, why did you recommend these? In most cases, it's going to reference one of these directories as to why they recommended it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's interesting, right? I just showed you that term, Miami DUI attorney. If you were to pay for that with a Google ad, we're talking $150, $250 per click, right? Mm-hmm. So Google is giving incredibly valuable real estate the number one spot to one of these websites. They're doing it because that's what searcher behavior dictates, right? When somebody searches, especially for the plural of the keyword, Miami DUI attorneys, law firms, best, right? Whenever they put those modifiers in there, inherently what the searcher wants is a list, right? Now you might say, well, Google is a list. Yes, it is, but like nobody really wants to pop open like 30 websites and go through one by one, especially we all know you all kind of say the same thing on your websites. But when you go to a directory like that has independent reviews, peer reviews, your own profiles, they can see everything they need in one list. Google over time has promoted these websites because searcher behavior, people are clicking on them and then not coming back to Google, which sends a signal to Google saying for these queries, this is what should be ranked. That's a big part of the ranking algorithm that people don't talk about is user behavior and stickiness. So that tells us that people want to see those websites for those queries, right? And Google's promoting and giving away that real estate because they basically have to, because their algorithm is dictating that to them. So these websites are not just important to have a profile on for ranking in the Google Maps pack, right, as citations, traditional citations, or in LLMs, as you alluded to. And as Cesar said too, you can literally ask ChatGPT, it's like, give me the best DUI attorneys in Miami, and say, how did you rank these? Tell me exactly what you're looking at. And it will say, well, Stewart and DeSalvo law firm has 3 reviews on Yelp. And it's like, why'd you use Yelp? It's like, well, we use Yelp because Yelp is much harder to get reviews on traditionally. You know what I'm saying? Like you see that in the Justia, there's only 2 reviews. The top person has 2 reviews. You go to Google, the top person has 2,000 reviews. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a bit of a cheat code, right? Where it's not like we're thinking about this. We're playing chess here, not checkers. We're not just saying, oh, let's go and buy a bunch of websites on Fiverr, just check a box like most SEO agencies do. We're saying, how do we get our clients more clients? How do we leverage this? If we're going to spend time and resources doing this, how do we make sure that it's going to return in terms of dollars and cents for our clients? So our process is to take everything that we do in terms of optimizing a Google business profile, and we optimize these profiles as well. And then we'll also, as Cesar alluded to too, try and direct some reviews there when we do our review outreach for clients. And in terms of finding these too, I'm going to share my screen one more time here. Make sure that you can't see the URL because this thing is, we've spent years building this database. But this database that you're looking at here is what we use for link building for our clients. It's one of the huge advantages of working with an agency who only works with law firms is that we do this over and over again. We have people, this is Reiner, he's one of our link builders who just prospects and finds these websites in here. We use Google to find them. We use some scrapers to find them. But essentially, they are websites that we know get indexed, right? So they're in Google's index. That means Google sees value in them because it's giving real estate to them. And 2, they're ranking for queries related to what you want to rank for. And 3, they're good websites that are relevant to legal that people could be using to find you, even if they don't use Google, right? People go to Avvo directly. People go to Yelp directly and search inside of there. So this database here, we prospected for it. It has everything that we need in terms of this is the website. These are the metrics of the website. Is it free? Is it paid? Any notes that we have on it. And I'll kind of let you talk to this process too. So when we take on a new client, right? Like what if they have profiles on here? What if they don't have profiles? What if it's paid? What if it's not paid? How do we handle that process with our clients?
Yeah, so the first thing is to audit the profiles on these directories. If they already have a profile, then it's more of evaluating whether or not it's optimized as much as it possibly can. And then of course we want to isolate the ones like we just talked about, right? If they have a Justia profile and we see how much visibility, if we were working with a Miami DUI attorney, that's going to take a very high priority, especially if we're working with an attorney that, if they're nowhere to be found right now on Google, they're going to have a much better chance, and we're going to have a much better chance of helping them acquire more leads by getting them to rank inside of Justia than they are Google. So that's the first thing we're looking for, is what are the directories that we can have more of an immediate impact on their business. And then secondly, we go through the list. Again, this is a curated list that we've put together, that we've vetted all of these directories for numerous different points. They have a high indexation rate. The links that you get, to use a technical term, are followed links. So you're actually getting an SEO value from the link itself. The domain has a high authority, so it's a link that powers your SEO and will help you rank. So all of these directories we know are worth our while to either update or create a profile for. In some cases, if there is a premium to be paid, we'll make a list, we'll present it to the client and explain to them why we feel that they should get a profile. And it's usually not anything astronomical. It's maybe a couple $100 for the year. It's well worth it. It costs less than what a traditional link is probably going to cost you. And that's it. We don't waste our time building citations on 1,000 rinky-dink directories that bring no value and Google isn't even aware of. We start with the very top, with the industry directories, all the legal ones. We'll do some research for the city that we're in, because we have clients all over the country. So there's specific city directories. We will look at those, evaluate it through the same criteria, and if it makes sense, then we would get on those directories. And then the general ones, the Yelp, the Apple Maps, the ones that LLM models use as retrieval sources, we want to make sure that those are accurate.
So it's a very manual process. Prospects ask me this all the time. We actually kind of lump this into our link building process. We have a 3-tier link building process. Tier 1 is like PR, Forbes list. Tier 3 is what we call these citation links. I'm always hesitant to call them citation links, because when SEOs hear that, they think about kind of I don't want to call them spammy, they're just kind of useless, more citations that don't really move the needle and just kind of waste time and resources. Then you got a random page on the internet. If you move your office, it's a whole thing. These are centrally managed, manually managed by us. We provided a login database to our clients where they have everything in case they move off of us. But they're important assets to have and to keep updated. If you do change offices or phone numbers, it's good to just have a manual database. So that's it. I didn't think we could talk for 15 minutes about that, but we did it, man.
Yeah. I would say, and it just comes to mind because it was a question I was recently asked by a client, is, they were concerned about, they didn't have as many citations as competitors, and they were also concerned about the accuracy of the phone number, because what we do is, especially for the ones that have high visibility, like a Justia, is we will create a specific phone number for that directory, a tracking number. And that way we know what calls are coming from those directories. You don't have to do it for all of them, but at least the more visible, the more prevalent ones, you want to do that. There's sort of a myth, and it used to be the case where, yes, you wanted every single mention across the web to be exactly to the dot on the address, exact phone number, name, address, and phone number all being the same. That is no longer the case. You can have different numbers for different directories and be just fine. So, that's one of the things that came up recently. So it was top of mind, and I wanted to make sure to clarify that.
No, I appreciate that. And as always, if you need help with your SEO marketing, local SEO, lead generation, you just want to have a conversation with us, there's a link below this video. It takes you directly to my calendar, and we will sit down, have a 15, 30-minute conversation about your law firm, your marketing, what's working, what's not working, and we can put together a free analysis for you if it makes sense, to see any opportunities that are available for you to meet that stuff on the bone for your law firm. If not, just keep coming back. Like, subscribe. We're back in the flow of doing this podcast, which I love. Make sure to tune into our other podcast, the Cost Per Case podcast, which is all about paid media and acquisition for law firms. And yeah, we'll see you next week.